Hi, I'm Alicia Michelle, best-selling author and ICF-certified Christian mindset coach. I've helped tens of thousands discover how to build emotional confidence using practical, science, and scripture-based mindset tools. If you're ready for less overwhelm, healthier relationships, and more calm and freedom in Christ, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hi there. Welcome to today's episode of the Christian Mindset Coach with me, Alicia Michelle. Last week, we talked about the concept of joy and how many of us are pursuing joy from the wrong perspective, that we're stuck feeling maybe guilt because we feel like we have a lot of things or we have a lot of positive activities in our lives, but we don't feel fulfillment. We're not quite sure what that's about. We talked about seeking God and finding joy in God, the difference between pleasure and joy and what God offers if we're feeling like, why do I have a good life, but I don't feel joyful? Today, I want to talk about the topic of joy from a different angle. This is a personal story for me too, but it's dealing with this question of, have I forgotten how to enjoy my life? I am really good at planning things, at organizing, at managing. And I can get into these modes where I become so used to managing life that I forget how to live it. I'm multitasking through everything. I'm always trying to get things off my to-do list. And it hits me every once in a while where I have to stop and say, what am I running to? What is this thing that I think will make me happy when I finish this? What is that about? I can get into these modes where I'm like, well, if I just finish this and I do this, then I'm going to be joyful. In reality, I can do those things and I need to, we all have certain things we need to do. But I also know that those things can't be what the source of joy is. That can't be what the gift of life is about. It's not just about tasks and doing things. This is critical to understand because I know that God has given us tasks to do in life. We have a calling, we have a mission, we have certain things we have to do. Is it doing something close to your heart in terms of, wow, that would be amazing to do for God? Or maybe as mundane as doing laundry or picking up toys for the 12th time today. All of those things are serving God and part of our calling. Part of our calling is to be filled with his spirit and his presence. In his presence is joy. Then if we are Christians running around being frustrated, tired, task-driven people, are we truly representing the gift of being in relationship with Christ, the light of his life in us? Jesus enjoyed his life. Did we forget that? He came to the earth. He dwelled with people. He lived with them. He laughed with them. He ate with them. We don't know the jokes that he told them, but we can guess that he told jokes with his disciples. He enjoyed them. And if you watch shows like The Chosen, you can see some examples of that. Now, of course, The Chosen is not gospel, but I think we forget that living with Jesus isn't always about having a checklist. That the life of Christ is meant to mirror the life of God himself, which has intentionality and, of course, is focused on the important spiritual aspects. But he's the God of flowers, sunset, rainbows. Why do we need these things every day? Why don't we just have a sunset that is black and white? Why are there thousands of different flower buds? Why is it beautiful to see all the different kinds of birds and how their feather patterns reflect the sunlight on a spring afternoon? We have been created to enjoy the world we live in and to savor these as examples and pictures of Jesus, God, his character. And yet we can get so stuck in just doing and just living that we don't see it. Now, I am someone who falls into this very easily. Maybe some of you are like, I don't fall into that. I can think of someone in my family. I'm not going to name this person, but if you're listening, you know who you are. This person has fun everywhere she goes. She is laughter My kids love being around this person. She is always bringing jokes into everything. She knows how to enjoy life. I'm always eager to be around her because I need more of that in me, to be less of the type A driven person. God has softened me in that area and taught me more about how to do that and how to be that. Because again, I find that I am a better all around person, Christian, mom, sister, all the things when I can do that. Some of us need to really stop and be intentional and focus on this. We might be living well, but we might be living numb. We're not able to delight in the things of life. We're not falling apart, but we're not feeling truly alive either. And so I do want to take a second, since we are talking about topics in this last episode and this episode that could relate to deeper issues going on, things like depression, things like burnout, issues even like struggling with suicidal thoughts. I'm not here to diagnose you, of course not, but I am here to say that if you feel numb or you're not feeling the hope of Christ and knowing the hope of Christ, it's hard for you to get up in the morning. I would encourage you to learn more about some of these signs of depression and other mental disorders that we can all go through from time to time. I will put a link in the show notes to an article that has some signs of depression if that's something you want to check out. It's important to talk about this because there may be some of you who are struggling with this topic to an extreme level and you need to know what to do. If you are feeling like this is overwhelming you to the point that you can't function or it's affecting how you're showing up, highly recommend you reach out to a mental health professional, reach out to a hotline, reach out to someone who can get you the help that you need. There's no shame in anything like this. We've all gone through stages like this. This could be an awakening that God has for you to maybe look deeper into this. If that's not your story, and you're like, I just feel like I need to learn how to stop being in this driven mode, then let's keep talking about what we're talking about. Joy, this enjoyment of life, it requires slowness. It requires presence. It requires attunement. Things that our culture resists, things that are not easily accessible when we're focused on the to-do list. Joy is not something that we can just kind of jump into and jump out of. I have another family member who, when we travel, is always like, I don't understand how we can really, like, this family member, she's not someone who wants to stare at a painting in a museum for an hour. She's just like, okay, painting, see it, nice, done, moving on. She's someone like that. And so I think of that idea is how many of us approach joy. We're like, hey, God, I got 15 minutes. Let's just get this joy thing taken care of because I got stuff to do. You see my day today. And I feel like that's just not how joy works. Joy needs margin. Joy needs space to breathe. Joy needs mystery and surprises. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. It is not something we can just conjure up and have. Joy takes connection with Christ first and foremost. But those connections also can be surprises throughout our days. If we treat joy as a task instead of this ongoing, I think of it as like an ongoing adventure with God, an ongoing mystery, an ongoing unraveling where I am doing my part of taking care of my mind and the things that might be pulling me away from Christ, because that's going to pull me away from the joy and the fulfillment that he has for me. I'm taking care of my body. I'm eating right, exercising, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water. I'm taking care of all of the other rest needs that I might have. I'm taking care of myself. I'm making my vessel available and open, but I'm also putting on, for lack of a better term, little glasses to notice what kind of joy is present or possible around me right now. What are the little things? We can get so task-oriented that we don't see those things. We don't notice them. We don't take them in. We don't savor them. Or we try to manufacture them by saying, well, it has to happen right here, right now. And when we can let it, we can do our side of the fence of taking care of ourselves, we can receive joy. We can be the vessel that God, it's all clean and ready for God to bring that gift of joy, like any other of the spiritual gifts. But then it's an adventure because we don't serve a God who is our puppet. He is a God, the king who lives outside of space and time, who makes decisions based on his wisdom, not ours. And so, therefore, he often surprises us and does things that are unexpected. If we can keep our eyes open to those things, it becomes a fun little thing with God. It really does. I think part of this too, which I found I had to deal with and confront back when I had that medical crisis in 2017, was I didn't even know what brought me joy, right? I didn't even know what would be fun or relaxing or how God could bring delight into my life. It just seemed so strange because I had, for so many years, elevated my purpose, my task, my to-dos as the thing that was going to fulfill me. So if you're living in that place for a long time, or maybe forever, like I had never really thought about what would joy look like? Like, how could I open myself up to that and learn how to bring delight back into my life? I started thinking about what were things that were fun to me as a kid. What did I like? I, as a kid, did not like climbing trees. I did not like getting muddy. I didn't like to get dirty. I didn't like risk. Risk was scary to me. My sister loved to do all that kind of stuff. But for me, I liked to be alone. I liked to draw. I liked to write in my journal. I liked to see pretty things. I liked to create. I liked to cook. As I started exploring this again as an adult, I realized, okay, I'm going to start here and see if any of these things are just themes that have carried through since I was young. And what else lights me up? Just starting to get curious about what else could be there. It really was a journey and investment in myself of, do I like this? Do I not? I don't have to like everything. I had a coach during this time who was sharing with us that she tried swim lessons. And she's like, I only signed up for 2 months of lessons because I'm going to try it for 2 months. And if I like it, then I'm going to keep going. And if I don't, then I won't keep going. That was so freeing. Wow, I guess I could do that. I don't have to commit for the rest of my life. Type A me is like, well, then we must be on a schedule for the next 2 years. And then we're going to advance to this level. And then we're going to be competing. Alicia, stop. Just take the swim lessons and see if you like it. And if you don't, move on and find something else. This is something kind of fun that I am experimenting with right now. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, I have been learning more about drawing and painting. I even took this love and this delight so far as to going on a retreat with someone that I follow online who does drawing and painting in an urban area. That's the first time I went to Italy. That's how I got connected with the people who hosted that retreat. I ended up working with them to host my own retreat in Italy. That painting and drawing time was something that I just started small with. I'd never heard of something called urban sketching. I had no idea what that was, but I started playing around with drawing myself. I began looking on Instagram for other people on how they did drawing. And I learned about this style that I really resonated with. And so it was this fun little adventure. And again, that all culminated in being around a group of other people who liked to do this in a place that's one of the most beautiful places on earth. It was phenomenal. Another fun thing that I started about a month ago is I now sing in a gospel choir. I know you might be thinking that's a little unexpected, Alicia. Like that just, I'm not sure that would fit, but I'm telling you, it is so much fun. I have such a blast doing it. And here's why it's a fit for me. Number one, I have always loved singing. I have sung on worship teams since I was in my early 20s, on and off through the years, different teams, different styles. But I've always loved gospel music. I love the passion behind it. I love people who want to gather, who want to use their whole body to express the gift of praising the Lord. I just think it's beautiful and fun. And so I wasn't necessarily looking for it, but I had another friend who was like, hey, I'm thinking of joining this gospel choir. Do you want to join with me? And I was like, yes, Yes, I do. That sounds really fun. And so, again, didn't have to commit to it for the next 3 years, 5 years of my life. I just was like, I'll give it a try and see what happens. And we had our first performance about a week ago from when I'm recording this episode. You can go to Instagram or Facebook. I put a recording of us doing a couple of the songs up there if you really want to see me singing in the gospel choir. I'm having a blast with it. It is a perfect example for me right now of how to find delight, how to find joy in my life that God gives all of us the opportunity to experience. Another one is different types of cooking. So, like I shared, I've always loved to cook, but now I'm like, all right, what are some different things I can experiment with? Sourdough bread is something that I've been learning a lot about in the last 6 months to a year. I now regularly make sourdough every week. I've been experimenting with different things to make with it, with bagels, breadsticks. Of course, I make my sandwich bread every week. I make the little garlic knots. I've made pizza crust. I have made galette dough, which is like a pie crust dough out of sourdough. And best of all, I'm gluten free. And so I can make bread that, yes, does use regular flour gluten, but because it's sourdough, it doesn't bother my stomach the way a normal floured bread would be that I would buy at the store. So I've opened up this whole world for me to be able to have a sandwich again. If you're gluten free, you know that gluten free bread just doesn't cut it. It is not, it is not like regular bread. And so I really enjoy this process of making it. I get all technical. It's just so fun to play with. What if I do this? And what if I try this as I'm making it? Every week, I try a different experiment to see if I can improve it. That's really fun for me. I've also gone through other times when I've learned other cooking techniques. About a year or two ago, I bought all of those books by Julia Child, the books that she wrote that are in the story of the movie Julie and Julia. She wrote a couple of volumes of those, Mastering the Art of French Cooking, I think is what it's called. I did not do what the girl in the movie does, where she takes 365 days and makes a different recipe from that book as part of her year of being with Julia. I'm not doing that, and I didn't do that. But I took like once a week for probably about 3 or 4 months. I was cooking recipes from the Julia Child cookbook, and it was fun, just exciting. And my family was like, okay, this is really good. But of course, everything in that cookbook has 2 sticks of butter in every recipe. So we couldn't eat that way forever. But these are the things that I personally know I need as part of rest, as part of being joy filled. That, of course, the joy first starts with grounding in Christ. That's what the previous episode talked about. But there are other things that God gives us the opportunity to connect with that are almost these holy experiences of joy that light us up and make us better vessels for his spirit to be a light in this world. So I would highly encourage you to see, what are the things that are in my life that maybe I've always wanted to try, or that I want to learn more about, or that I could dig more into, things that give me the ability to connect to godly joy from that perspective of enjoying my life, stepping out of the to-do list. Are you stuck in that place where you're like, I just feel like I'm showing up and checking the boxes every day, and the next day is the same as the next? We do have times where we have to just get it done. Totally get that. But yeah, we can also sprinkle in opportunities to get filled up along the way. So I pray this is a good reset for anyone listening who's like, if you felt like, I need to rediscover what it means to have happiness, what it means to enjoy my life. I just touched on this a little bit here, but this is the topic that we're covering in January and February in the Emotional Confidence Club. If you would like to join us, you can apply at aliciamichelle.com/club. This was, like I said in the last episode, this is the topic that was the number one topic that the ladies wanted to talk about. And I think it's incredibly appropriate for the beginning of a brand new year, learning about what it means to rediscover joy in a new way in this season, despite the craziness that we're feeling, despite the trial you might be walking through, despite the checklist that you still have to get done. What does it look like to find joy and to reorient our life around the things of God first, and have these discoveries, these moments of joy with him, to be able to truly savor and just treasure the gift of this life. You and I woke up this morning and we could breathe. And most of us woke up in a house that hopefully, if it's in the middle of the winter where you're at, you could turn on the heater. You went downstairs and you had food to eat, hopefully. All of these things are gifts, yes. And also, God came so that we can live beyond survival. He wants us to live beyond checking boxes and just having this very base sort of survival life. We need to sometimes awaken ourselves to that and realign ourselves with Him in these ways to discover that fullest life. All right, friend, our very last episode of the year is next week. It is always my favorite episode to put together in December, and you'll see why when you see the name of it next week. I look forward to sharing that with you when I see you next Monday. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me today. For full show notes and helpful next step resources, visit aliciamichelle.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd be honored if you would leave a 5-star rating and review. And remember, if you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck in your emotions, I offer free chats with listeners. Just head to aliciamichelle.com/chat. Tell me a little bit about what's going on, and I'll be in touch. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next week.